Hey there, MindShift Thrivers. Rosanna Novice again with MindShift Thrive Global Ministries. Welcome again to a phenomenal episode, Community Leaders Season 2. And we are back with a survivor turned thriver. Her name is Nadia Rojas. She comes all the way from the state of Florida. She actually is visiting us today, this weekend, in our Atlanta L&R studios because she wanted to talk to you about her journey and her testimony. She's a friend of the ministry, and we appreciate her so much for carving out her family time to be here. Yes. Thank you so much, Nadia. We appreciate you.
So excited. I'm so thankful that I have the chance to be here and talk to you and see what God will do in this time.
Oh, he always does amazing things.
Yes,
you already know, girl. You already know.
So excited.
So talk to us. Let the survivors know where you come from, where you've been, where God is leading you now in your personal healing journey, right? So you did go through domestic abuse, right? Let's talk about that.
Okay. Well, I originally come from Dominican Republic. That's where I was born. I've lived in different states in the United States, but for the last 20-something years, I've been stationed in Florida. So I guess you can call me a Floridian by now. I met my ex-husband in New York, and after 9/11 we moved down to Florida together. I had family and friends, and we said it might be a good time for a change, so we wanted to try Florida out to have more people and community around us.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, so we were married for on and off 17 years. We both were very young. We were both in a lot of need of love and attention, and we latched on to each other very tightly. In that time, you know, I always say there are always red flags, and I had red flags from the very beginning. But I don't want to make this about him because he also has his own story and his own journey. It's more about me and where I was. I came from a very broken home. And at the time that I met him, I was almost homeless. My dad had kicked me out of his house, and I was really starved for love and stability. I think stability is that one word that kept coming into my life that I was just really craving for.
Was there any abuse in the home with your mom and dad?
Not that I know of or that I saw or witnessed. Okay. But there was a lot of instability. There was a lot of back and forth, on and off, in and out. So, you know, sometimes abuse is not always physical.
Neglect.
There was neglect. Yeah. There was also a lot of silent treatment and withdrawals. So you're kind of there, but you sense the tension and you sense like the rejection and you're not understanding. And as a child, because you don't understand, a lot of times we assume that there's something wrong with me.
Right.
So I think that started to take root in my heart, and I didn't know it at the time. But then when my parents divorced, that my dad left, came to the States because this was in Dominican Republic, he remarried, and when I met my husband, my ex-husband, he gave me something in that moment, which was like the stability. We moved in together very quickly. He offered, you know, love and support, and it was just so needed in the time because I had such a big void in my life that when I think about it, it's almost like he was a lifesaver that I was just holding on when I was drowning.
Got it.
So I latched on to him, and we started our relationship, and it was young puppy love. We were very young, and with time, when it was just about us, I would say the relationship was really good while it was just us because all the attention was on me and he had all of my attention.
Got it.
As time went by and we got married and we bought a house, and you start searching for all the things in the world that define you to be successful. We were both really into our profession. We, just really focused on career, focused on making money, focused on getting attention and fame and do the things that we were passionate about. So once we got married and we started having kids and we became homeowners, and I say the stresses of life really start piling up, there was like a big shift, because it felt like, while it was just about him and I, it was really good. But once life started taking place, and now we were having a big responsibility, the stresses of life, and now we were homeowners, and we were employees, and we were parents, and we were sons and daughter, a lot of that stress of life, we didn't know how to manage it. So yes, after we got married and we started having children and we became homeowners, and the stresses of life started happening, I feel like it highlighted our emotional intelligence and who was in a different level of maturity.
And you picked up on that during that time, or you're like
Absolutely.
in an afterthought, like reflection?
In that time, I was already like, what did I do?
So you were thinking it was your fault?
Yes. That's why I'm saying a lot of the times when we are in abusive relationships, we don't know that there is anything else. We don't know that that's unhealthy. Yeah. We don't have anything else to compare it to.
Right.
So that's when I started learning that there was this portion I didn't know at the time. I'm reflecting. During that time when the marriage was really suffering with all the stressors, there was this blame shifting that was taking place, where I was taking all of the guilt and everything was my fault. And I was just carrying not only the household and the parenting and the finances and everything, but I was also carrying if there was any problems, if there was any issues that needed to be addressed. It was my responsibility, and that it was my fault if it went wrong.
Did you feel, I'm sorry to interrupt you, I just kind of had a thought right now. Did you feel like you just had to carry that load because it was expected of you? So was it expected of you from him directly, or did you just feel like within your role of being a wife that you had to just take all of those things on?
I think it's a great question, by the way. It's a great question, because I think it's a combination of both.
Okay.
Where I come from and the way that I was raised culturally, Caribbean women, we are raised to be caterers. And it was, the way I was raised was, you have to be a strong, independent woman, that you don't have to take anything from no man. You gotta you gotta get your education. You have to be self-sufficient because you can't rely on anybody. So I think that the way that I was raised, it was not to trust in men, number one. Number two was, you can't depend on men either.
Wow.
Number three, you have to be strong and you have to be the one who handles everything, because nobody can do it better than yourself. And that came not only from, we were surrounded by very strong women in my household, with my mom and my aunts. And so the message that was given was, you have to be very strong, you have to be very capable, you have to be independent, you can't really trust nobody, and it really falls on you.
Wow.
So that created this spirit of self-sufficiency. When I tell you that I really thought that I was Wonder Woman and that I can do it all by myself, it's an understatement.
Yeah.
So,
but it took a toll on you.
It absolutely took a toll. So then when you combine that first half of my life as an independent person, as an individual, and you combine that, because that also will attract a certain type of person. And in that moment, you don't know that.
So what type of person would it attract?
It attracts someone that is looking for someone to take care of them. You are the fixer. You are the caretaker. You are the solver. So you're going to attract someone that wants to lay back and be taken care of. First, because you don't know any boundaries. You don't know what a 50-50 relationship is, you know? So when you're...
Before you continue, I just want to let the survivors know out there that this is very deeply rooted in culture and society expectations.
Absolutely.
But not every single man who feels the need to be catered is an abuser.
Right.
So sometimes there are healthy marriages that within their own role, they assume the role, the gender role, and it is a highly functioning family where he is the provider.
Absolutely.
He's a safety net, but he expects his woman to take care of the family at home. So there is no, I just want to make it very clear that there is no correlation directly between abusive men and them wanting to have a wife to take care of them.
Absolutely not.
So I just, in case there
Yes.
were any survivors that were thinking, well, you know, they expect, it's not always the case.
Not at all.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, now in my walk with Christ, I've actually learned what it is to be a godly wife. And a lot of that has to come from a heart that is willing to love and serve. But I think that the importance to clarify this is it's your heart posture,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
But it's reciprocated.
It's
Your
reciprocated.
husband honors and respects you as well.
Correct.
He treats you with the love and respect that you treat
Correct.
him.
So I don't want the survivors to think that a woman can't cater to her husband,
Right. And that
or
the
that
man-
a man wanting a woman that will love them and give them the attention, that it's wrong. No, I'm just saying what is wrong is
But
when you're
what you're saying
giving
is
them
true.
and they're just falling back and
Right.
getting comfortable and not doing their portion.
Correct. There
That's
are men
where-
that pray.
Correct.
There are men that pray. Men that have portrayed abusive behavior in the past, they prey on women who are very like self-serving.
Right.
So they're huge givers, and then they use that to manipulate and control them.
Yep.
But not all men that look for that type of woman would abuse
Yes.
the woman. That's what I just wanted to clarify.
Absolutely. There's always supposed to be a balance
Yes,
in the
absolutely,
relationship.
yeah, for sure.
The husband in his leadership and his provision, you know, as a husband and as a father, he has his role.
Yes.
And me as a wife, we also have our role as well. And we're more of the caretakers and the nurturers. So there is a balance.
Yeah.
What I'm referring to is when you are giving and you're pouring and there's nothing being delivered back. That's
No,
when the
absolutely.
balance is completely off.
Oh, yeah.
And now you have like this really heavy, you're carrying this really heavy burden.
Of course.
And you're not even understanding why or how because you don't know anything else.
Of course.
You know?
And you were so young.
Yes.
You didn't have anything to compare it to. You didn't know what it was supposed to look like.
No.
You didn't have an expectation.
And
Right?
every time I would voice some concern, because of the cultural lessons that were given to me, it was more like, well, this is your job. This is your home. That is your husband. This is your responsibility. So everything would fall on, okay, it is me, so I guess I have to do it.
Right.
Okay, I have to be strong. Okay, I did choose this, so I guess I have to. But nobody was listening when I was crying for help. And to be fair as well, I got so good at it that I stopped crying for help.
Well, realistically, no one was there to help
Yeah,
you. No one
realistic.
was there to define that this is not normal.
Yeah.
And that you're being taken advantage
Yeah.
of. And that a relationship is just that. It's reciprocal.
Yeah,
It's a mutual exchange.
absolutely.
100% for each one of you.
Yeah.
And do we all have our days where sometimes we don't put in our weight? Yes, of course, even in healthy relationships. But what you're talking about is all the responsibility was on you, and he took advantage of that. It was clear that he took advantage of
One of the things that really caught my attention was whenever there were some kind of need, when there was a need or if there was some kind of request or some issue was happening, there were a few statements that were like staple in his conversation. And it was like, I don't know. What do you want me to do? What do you mean? Those were the three statements that were...
So he'd give it back to you.
He's giving it back to me.
Right.
So I'm having the communication. I am expressing the concern or the request, and it was completely blocked, right? There was no time to self-reflect or to even digest the information or the request. It was like, no, I'm sorry, I don't know. Here, you handle it.
Wow.
Because I would always end up handling it.
Yeah, I get that.
So when that happens, frustrations start happening, right? Resentment starts happening. So much anger. And, you know, when that boils down, then the verbal abuse starts happening. Then the silent treatment starts happening. Then the physical or the attempt of the physical. Because he didn't lay hands on me, but there were attempts where I do think that God really covered me through and through, because there were attempts in his anger and his frustration. He would drink.
Just to cope with
His coping mechanisms were all kinds of substance abuse.
Got it.
So when that was out of control, then it would explode.
The verbal abuse was name calling. Was it shaming?
There was name calling. There was shame calling. But also the gaslighting too. And again, making me doubt that I even was talking about something that was important.
Yeah.
So if I would voice something, is that, what do you mean? What are you talking about?
Everything's okay.
Everything is okay. I didn't say that, or I didn't do that. You're crazy. You're just, and I'm just taking all of it. It comes to a point where you actually now are wondering, am I really crazy?
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
I get it.
Am I not seeing this correctly? How is this my fault? You know, you start really now questioning, are you really correct? Are you really feeling what you're supposed to be feeling?
Yeah.
And that comes so much from a lack of identity and from a lack of healthy boundaries, and you just start questioning everything.
Yeah.
And
you start believing
the
lies that he's trying to sell you.
And that is so dangerous, because now you're putting yourself in a place where his word has so much more significance than your own awareness. And now you literally are in the palm of their hand, because now you are rooted in a lie. You're questioning yourself and you're validating whatever they are saying about you. Wow. And that just opens the door to a whole lot of things.
How long did that go on for?
You know, I'd like to say that our relationship was in stages. And it's very interesting. It's important, because the first stage was, I would say, the first 4 to 5 years, it was that beautiful honeymoon, puppy love. It was all about him and I, right? That's the first stage. The second stage was when we actually got married. And then like life hit at us fast. So now all of a sudden, now we're in our 30s, we're homeowners, we're new parents. I'm also taking care of my mom. And all of these really heavy things are coming at us all at once. So you're like, oh, wait, what's happening? So I think that in that stage, that's when our true colors started showing up. Like what we were really made of. How far were we willing to go to make the relationship work? How much were we willing to grow as an individual and as a couple, you know? So for me, in the resentment, the way it came out was I couldn't be intimate with him.
Yeah.
I was so afraid. I was so hurt. I was so angry. I feel like in that process, I also lost a lot of respect. So you don't want to be intimate with someone like that. And that also...
You don't feel safe.
You don't feel
Emotionally
safe. You don't feel connected.
Yes.
You don't feel, you know...
Like there's no intimacy
There's
at that
absolutely...
point.
There's none.
Yeah.
Like none.
I get it.
So then you start now that fuels the problem. So that's when we had our first separation. And at that point, I only had my first child.
Okay. All right.
So in the attempt of trying to fix our marriage, we went to a therapist. And I remember clearly she was like, I wish you guys...
went together?
We went together, yes. And...
did you tell the therapist that you were being verbally abused?
We both did. We both told the therapist like the weaknesses and the challenges that we were having.
Okay.
Because we went together. However, it's very interesting to note, I went because I truly believed that there was very heavy issues at core that needed to be solved. He went because he knew that that was the only thing that he could do to get me back.
Got it.
And the reason why I note that is when you go willingly because you understand that there's a problem, that means you're willing to work at it.
Yeah.
But if you feel that you're being dragged or you feel, that means that you have no accountability, you still don't understand why.
Yeah. He just wanted
went.
to do anything he could.
He just went to get me back.
Yeah, absolutely. And survivors, just remember, I remind you so often that sometimes you don't know you're in an abusive relationship, but if you know and you're still in it and you are forced by friends and family or even from your partner to get help in the middle of abusive relationship, absolutely do not get mutual couples counseling. That can be detrimental and will make the relationship worse. You need to get out of an abusive, dangerous relationship as quickly as possible. This will bring even deeper danger because he can use that to manipulate and convince the therapist to get on his side and gain even more control and manipulation once you return home. So you are not going to feel like you are being advocated by the therapist if you are both in the same room. And the therapist may not know enough about domestic violence. This is why trauma specialists and doing it independently and away from your abuser is critical. So just a quick tidbit on that.
And the reason why I note that is because I found it very interesting because the therapist actually pointed out something very important. And she said, there are usually two types of couples that come into our office. It's the couple that is very connected and has great intimacy and they're very connected, truly one. The whole world around them can be collapsing, but they're so united, right? There's so much intimacy at once, like between them, that they feel that they can fix whatever comes around them. So they're coming for external reasons, right? And then you have the second couple where there is no intimacy, right? There's no connection. And because there is none, the external things are not as big, but because there is nothing there as a couple, it seems like the world is falling down when it's not.
Got it.
You know?
Yeah.
So that was a big aha moment for both of us, you know, and we wanted to try to fix it. But then the therapist that we did go to was really good, and she did divide us.
Yes.
And there was a time we went together and we did a few sessions together. but then we also did a few sessions separately.
Yeah.
And obviously, because she's a therapist, she cannot tell me the things that he was discussing and vice versa.
Confidential.
But she did mention that we had gone at such a late time in our relationship, and we were in such worlds apart that there was just, at that point, really...
It was severed.
It was just too severed to go back.
Got it. Thank you for sharing that with me. So if we can wrap up, because I know time is always of...
Yeah, we could go forever.
We can go forever. One takeaway, and what you could say to the survivors, like what are a couple of red flags that you know now that you didn't know before that they could really hone in on and keep that in the back of their mind and be like, oh, I remember what Nadia said at MindShift Thrive episode, and I think this is happening to me. So from your own personal
I think
experience.
that the first thing that I would say is please listen to the red flags. They are there for a reason. The Holy Spirit will use those things to alert you. Your body will respond to that. You'll have that gut feeling. Trust the gut feeling. And don't think that you can change a man. We
Such
have,
great
for
advice.
some reason, this thought that if we love them enough, that if we pour into them enough, that if we build with them enough, if we care for them enough, that if somehow we have like these magical powers to change a person. And a person doesn't change because of another person. They need to change within themselves because they understand that a change is needed.
Yeah, that's right. That's
So
right.
that
Thank
would be
you.
probably the biggest takeaway.
That's huge.
Yeah.
That is so huge. And sometimes we're in it and we don't even see how much we're trying to be their savior. So thank you for that.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. Another wonderful survivor story because she is out of it. She is thriving, y'all. We're going to have a part 2. I can't wait for you to see it because she's doing amazing things. God is working in her life like you have no idea. And we're going to share that in part 2 of Miss Nadia Rojas from Florida, survivor turned thriver. Thank you again, hon.
Thank you.
A big hug.
Big hug.
To you. Appreciate you. Thank you for having me. You're welcome. Honored. Survivors. One day at a time. She can get out of it. I got out of it. So many of us are now out and walking in the light, and you can too.
There's hope.
Absolutely. There's hope. Hold on to your faith. Hold on to someone in the community. Hold on to someone who wants you to live again and live abundantly. This is Rosanna Novice with MindShift Thrive Global Ministries. We love you, and until next time, God bless. Mwah.